All right, in this video, we are going to talk about finding the A value and also how to find the vertex when you're looking at a table of a quadratic function. If you notice, so last week we started talking about one of the ways to write a quadratic function. We talked about how to write a quadratic function in vertex form. Now, there's actually three ways. There's vertex form, factored form, which we're going to talk about in the next video, and standard form, which we're going to talk about next week. But no matter what form you're using, notice that all of them have an A in it right there. So what we're going to talk about today is how we can find the value of A. When we're looking at a table, if we can find the second change, A is really just going to be half of that. So for example, if you're looking at this table right here, if you find the first change from 7 down to -2 is -9. From -2 down to -5 is -3. And from -5 down to, or back up, I guess, to -2 is a +3. Not linear, those are not the same, but now we can take the change of those numbers. So from -9 up to -3, you have to go up 6. And then from a -3 to a +3, it's also up 6. So because the second change is 6, we're going to take that 6 and we're going to divide it by 2, half of it. So that means that the second change, that means that the A value is 3. So no matter which way we were going to write a function to represent this, the A value would be 3. Now let's take that a little bit farther and let's actually write a function in vertex form for this same table. Notice that I just took this table and I just recopied it down here. If you're looking at this table, the first thing we need to do is we need to be able to identify the vertex. Now remember that the vertex is either the lowest Y value or it's the highest Y value. And it also happens like at the symmetric middle of the graph. So if you were to draw a line through the vertex, it's going to be symmetric on either side of it. Same over here. Whoops. So we need to find essentially like the symmetric line of this table. To do that, we're going to match up things that match each other. So for example, this -2 and this -2 are like the two symmetric sides of this, the two Y values that both go down -2. So we can match those up. And when we do that, we can see that there is this spot right in the middle of our symmetry that is going to be the vertex. That also makes sense because if you look at these Y values, that's the lowest one. -5 is lower than all of the other points in this table. And it goes up the same on both sides around it, from -5 to -2 on the before it and to -2 after it. So this is going to be the vertex of our table. So if we know that the A value is 3, and we know that this is the vertex, we can use, just like we learned in the last video last week, we can use vertex form to write the function. So let's do that. So we have f of x equals, we said our A value is 3, so we'd write a 3 right there for A. And then we have parenthesis x, and then opposite of the x value of the vertex, so +2 squared. And then the y coordinate of the vertex is a -5, so we'll write a -5 out there. So that's how you would find the A value from a table, half of the second change, and that's how you would identify the vertex in the table. You essentially find the point of symmetry. Okay? Now let's look at these. There's two examples down here. We'll do these two examples to see how we're feeling. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find the A value. So from -1 to 1, well, actually, let's not do that first. Let's do the vertex first. So notice that this 1 has a -1 before it and a -1 after it. That means that this 1 is like the center point of the function. It's where everything kind of expands around. So that is going to be our vertex. Notice that it's also the highest point of this. 1 is bigger than every other number here. Okay, so that's how we know it's the vertex. A good way to find the vertex is to look for what essentially is, I call it like a sandwich within the function. It's like the 1 is sandwiched in between two -1s. Like the -1s are the bread, and the 1 is like the meat of the sandwich. Okay, so that's a way that you can kind of identify the vertex pretty easily, is you need to look for the sandwich. Look for the thing that is one number with the same number on either side of it. Okay, you can find that by connecting these two -1s and then knowing that that is in the middle of the what you connected. It's like the center of the rainbow. So that's our vertex. Now we're going to find the A value. So to go from -1 up to 1, that's +2. From 1 back down to -1 is -2. From -1 down to -7 is -6. And from -7 down to -17 is -10. That's our first change. Now we're going to find our second change. So from 2 down to -2 is -4. From -2 down to -6 is -4. And from -6 to -10 is also -4. That tells us that our A value is half of -4, which is -2. So if we were going to write this function, we would say f of x equals our A value, x, opposite of the x coordinate, so -3 squared, and then the y coordinate is a +1, so +1. Okay? So that's the function that represents that table. Now let's look at this one. First, let's find our vertex. If you notice, there's two -2's over here. If we connect them, there's this center value right here that would represent the vertex. There's our sandwich, -2, -3, -2. Okay, -3 is sandwiched in between these two -2's. This is our vertex. Now we need to find the A value. So we have 6 to 1 is going down 5. From 1 down to -2 would be down 3. From -2 down to -3 is subtracting 1. And then from -3 back up to -2 is adding 1. That's our first change. If we find the second change from -5 to -3 is +2. From 3 to -1, -3 to -1 is adding 2 and adding 2. So A would be half of 2, which is 1. So we have our A value, we have our vertex. So the function would be A is 1, x minus the x coordinate, so -3, squared, and then the y coordinate is a -3, so -3. Now the only variation here is you wouldn't actually have to write this one because A is 1, anything times 1 is just itself. So you don't actually have to write the 1, you could just say f of x equals x minus 3 squared minus 3. So the 1 is optional, but otherwise that is how you write a function in vertex form from a table, finding the A value and also identifying the vertex in a table. Go ahead and try the practice, see how you do. Remember, you can take it as many times as you want. If you have any questions, I'll see you on Google Meet, or you can feel free to email me. Thanks. Bye.